Okay, so we're going to do something new, interesting and different. It's time to talk about the movie of the month of April. Yes, I'm doing this in May, but I was supposed to do it last week, but due to technical difficulties, I was unable to. So I'm doing it now, because if it's not done now, it will never be done at all. Ah, dearie me. Anyway, last month was the tail end of the film drought period, the period in which there are no real film releases, just films that are released out of contractual obligation and very, very little else. The month started off with The Seventh Son, starring Jeff Bridges, which I almost forgot about. If it weren't for the fact I have all of these previously recorded on the YouTubes, I would have totally forgotten about it entirely. It is a forgettable movie. It is full of bad, terrible performances. Jeff Bridges in probably the worst role of his entire career, mumbling, bumbling, and making no real sense. It's a movie that's supposed to be set in some kind of strange fantasy version of Lancashire, though everybody within the movie is speaking in American accents, yet still using terms within Northern dialect, so they refer to each other's mothers as ma'am rather than mum, or indeed the American mom. It's ludicrous, it's silly, it's dumb. Yes, I'm getting hung up on the Northern thing, but there's very little else to get hung up about, because there's very little other substance that's actually within the movie. No point seeing it, and I'll be surprised if I can find many terrible movies this year. Then, of course, we had Cinderella, brilliant Cinderella. I loved Cinderella. I'm surprised I loved it so much, because it isn't really the kind of movie that I like. It is very much more of a costume drama than a fantasy movie, than the Cinderella that we all know and love from childhood. It was a very, very interesting little movie to see a movie which is so traditional in its approach to the story and yet feel oh so refreshing. It's not like so many other reimaginings of fantasy movies that we've had over the past few months, which is dark and gritty and blood flying everywhere. Everything's been desaturated. Look, there's Snow White running around with the dwarves with axes, chopping up orcs and stuff. It's not trying to be The Lord of the Rings, it's trying to be Cinderella, and for my money it succeeds very, very well. We also had Get Hard, the utterly repulsive movie by Will Ferrell and what's-his-face Heart. It is... I just don't even want to talk about it. It's so terrible. Now we had The Duff, a movie which I was sorely disappointed by. I had never heard about it until I saw it. Then, the very beginning of the movie, it looks as though it's going to really explore the cliches of high school movies, and then it fails to explore any of them. It just becomes a cliched high school movie. It's okay, it's inoffensive, it's the kind of movie that if it was on a Saturday afternoon I'd probably watch it, or if I saw it on a Saturday afternoon I probably would watch it through to the end, because it's fine enough. It's just fairly unremarkable. By contrast, we had Fast and the Furious Part 7, which was, blimey Charlie, probably the biggest surprise I've had at the cinema in a very, very long time. It is a great action movie, it is silly, but in a very self-aware kind of way. It does some bloody stupid and dumb things at times, but it does them very, very well. I thought that the ending tribute to Paul Walker was very, very well thought through and very tastefully done. It could quite easily have been very, very naff and too sentimental, but it gets the balance just right. It felt as though this would have been a nice way to end the series, but there's going to be a part 8, so whatever, what do I know? Then Paul Blart Mall Cop 2. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. You know, the sad thing is, I am a volunteer film critic. I don't get paid for doing this. So in me going to see it, I've effectively paid for Paul Blart Mall Cop Part 3. Yes, I'm sorry. I will apologise to humanity greatly, and I'm going to, at the next opportunity, see as many clever, innovative indie movies as I possibly can to try and make a penance for my sins. Speaking of sins, particularly cinematic sins, Hot Tub Time Machine 2. It exists because the money says so. It is the definitive money. It exists because of money and nothing else. Then a little chaos. Beautiful looking movie, fairly ineffectual. The Woman in Gold I found utterly infuriating because of our lead character and the fact there's very little balance within it. Chow 44, great movie, horribly flawed. It could have been so much more better with a little bit of time taken to edit some stuff out, make it a little bit more sharper, bump up the pace a little bit, but perfectly fine. It's flawed. Then The Salvation, which I reviewed last week, which I was going to re-review this week on the radio show, but I couldn't due to technical difficulties. Great Western movie, great movie. I enjoyed it. It's not for everybody. It is a typical Western in almost every way, shape and form, and it does fall prey to many of the cliches of the genre. But if you are a fan of Westerns and you want to see a big... if not even a Hollywood, it's not a Hollywood movie. If you want to see a big Western on the big screen, then go and see see it. Then, of course, Avengers, Age of Ultron, great, fantastic, brilliant. I'm not saying anything new by saying it's great, fantastic, and brilliant. So, the movie of the month, for me, is John Wick. And the reason is because it's probably, out of all the movies I've listed, the one that did so much right. It's a movie that had very few flaws with. The only real flaw that I had with it, which is that the soundtrack wasn't, for my money, as good as it really should be. Had it had a soundtrack a little bit more like Drive, then this would have been a perfect movie for me, a great movie. But at the heart of it, it's still fantastic. It's still a great movie, and it's probably one of the best action movies I think I've probably ever seen. It deals with action in a way which should be done. Or rather, in a way that modern-day action movies should do it. Less of the shaky cam, less of the boom, bang, pow, a little bit more art to it, a little bit more craft to it, being able to actually see the action before unfolding before your eyes, but it happening to characters you actually care about and have been developed. That is a key thing. All too often when it comes to action movies these days, it's the Liam Neeson, you stole my daughter nonsense, which, to be honest with you, I am utterly, utterly sick of, though chances are we'll probably get 3 more movies of that same vein by the end of the year. It has been announced there's going to be a part 2, which I'm really looking forward to. Keanu Reeves is going to be back with that. I hope we still get the same directing crew behind it. I just want the same people in it, but do something new and exciting and interesting. It's a great movie, fantastic movie. John Wick is my movie for April. Brilliant, fantastic, amazing. Who knows what May will have in store for us with such great movies as Pitch Perfect 2, the Poltergeist remake, and The Cobbler starring Adam Sandler. Oh dear. Well, you never know. There may be some great movies mixed in with all that. We'll soon find out. Thank you for listening, and goodbye.